Racial lines, we're still divided. The question has to be why?
With all the rumbling that's going on in our nation right now, I've got to find out if there's other people in this country that feel the same way that I do.
Well, he calls himself a runaway slave, and it's also the title of his new documentary. The Reverend C.L. Bryant says Black Americans have been enslaved by liberal welfare programs, and now it's time to break free. Reverend Bryant and radio show host David Webb tell us why this project is so important to them. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Good morning,
Thank you, Shannon.
All right, Reverend, I want to start with you. How do you respond to those who say they're offended by the usage and imagery and language of talking about slavery in this context?
Everyone who has gained freedom in this country has had to run away from the tyranny of being enslaved to something, whether it was the tyranny of King George or whether it was the tyranny of the plantation. Everyone who has truly enjoyed the fruit of America has had to run toward that and embrace it and claim it as their own.
All right, David, you are a part of this documentary as well. You are a popular radio show host. What do you hear from your callers out there about this issue?
Well, the fact is the Reverend is right about this, and I want to add something else to this, Shannon. It's about making a choice, and that's something that Americans, it's part of our culture. You should make a choice. You should also be unpredictable. My message to the Black community, to any community, any group in America, is be unpredictable or you become a tool of the political parties on either side. Let them earn your vote, but do that under the American model, which is freedom, free markets, free enterprise, the rugged individualism and the opportunity and the equality of access that we have as Americans. That is what is key. That's what I hear from my listeners. That's what I talk to people about around the country. And that's what we do as Americans, and we become successful that way.
Reverend, do you think that the Black community has an awareness of this power that David mentions? I mean, to be its own independent political force and not to necessarily link up with just one particular viewpoint or party?
If the Black community would understand that the perils and the trials that our people have gone through in this country to get to where we are today was not so that we could be Black, but so that we could be free, I think an entirely different attitude toward America would then evolve. And that's what this movie is about. It's about making us understand that particular idea and then changing the conversation of race in this country. Not only are we fleeing economic slavery and running toward the blessings of liberty, but we're fleeing a mindset that has entrapped and enslaved a group of people. And if we're not careful, it will entrap and enslave us all.
And Reverend, do you feel that you're getting a good response? Do you think there's growth of conservatives among the black community? Is that the intent of the overall documentary?
This will give many Black people who are conservative at their core a chance to come out of the closet, so to speak. So many Black folks at their core are conservatives and always have been. But for somehow, by buying into the progressive liberal idea and agenda, they feel as though they can't speak as freely as their hearts would allow them to.
And David, do you feel like folks are getting a different voice? Do you feel that your listeners and your callers, those who are of the Black community, are feeling more emboldened and that there may be other options than they traditionally thought there were for them?
They certainly are. And, you know, as someone who always was a conservative, I remember going back to my very first vote in the 1980s. It's not about just identifying yourself. It's about really realizing who you are, deciding who you are, finding what values fit. We're a center-right nation. We're a nation based on a very simple principle of opportunity, freedom, a limited, effective, and constitutional government. And our institutions have failed us. It's the rise of the Tea Party movement, something of which I'm one of the original founders. It's the rise of not just the black community's conservatism, but the American rebirth of true conservative values, true traditional values. This is how we succeed. We can no longer be told this is your narrative, this is your narrative, this is who you are. And this is not just about the black community. It's about generational theft of opportunity, generational theft of upward mobility. As I talked to my 25-year-old producer today on the show, and he says, I'm looking at the future and I want it and I'm willing to do anything to get to it, but many of my peers won't. They're disenfranchised, they're disenchanted, and they are locked out of opportunity in this country.
David Webb and Reverend C.L. Bryant, we thank you very much for your time. A fascinating documentary. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.